in the case of the Nano, it was a dream. You saw people on a scooter, 4 or 5 family members, and you dreamt about making it safer. And I remember I'm quite a doodler, particularly when board meetings are boring. And I kept on doodling how to make scooters safer, and that led eventually to making a family car that would take care of a family through rain and such safely. I made 2 great enemies in the process. One was the two-wheeler manufacturers, and the other were the car manufacturers that didn't have a car for 1 lakh of rupees. We then had a series of problems of moving factories, a very determined politician who decided that we would not produce the car where we had built a factory. There was a campaign to make this fail. And then we ourselves became rather complacent in the whole thing. We made many mistakes. So the Nano was not as successful as it, in my view, should have been. But it was great to succeed in putting forward a 1 lakh car.
Sure.
That could have been the car that was a people's car for India. You know, I feel India, our country, has one tremendous attribute in the 1 billion plus people, and that is that we have often been called a country of shopkeepers, or a country of individuals who seek to have their individual visibility. It may be a pawn shop, it may be a larger shop, it may be some activity, but we are entrepreneurs, DNA-wise. We, as a country, we have ideas. What we don't have adequately is we don't have the opportunity to express ourselves. We don't have an infrastructure that helps finance us. We don't have an environment necessarily that motivates us or supports us. Us meaning the entrepreneur, the young entrepreneur. The worst thing that happens to us, I think, is that a young entrepreneur has an idea. It's an idea, it may be a way out idea, and the older person says, how successful has this been elsewhere? How many people have succeeded or utilized it? This is the kiss of death. No new idea is ever going to happen, but we have that potential. And I think if we have the motivators, the supporters, the equivalent of a venture capital community, then India is going to really go exponentially into this new era. And just like the United States has done over the last several decades, who would have thought that we have some of the companies that exist today and are considered highly valuable would be there? Who would have thought of Microsoft or Apple or SpaceX or any of these new names? They didn't exist some time ago. No one would have thought that Elon Musk could himself create a company that would compete with NASA. It would have been unheard of. So I think we have the potential. We have the heroes, but they're embedded in a more traditional structure. We need to unleash them.
And
any sectors which you think are emerging, which are great opportunities to back in the next 5 years?
The one that I am most excited about is medical research. I think India is poised to play a big role in some of the discoveries. And in the 10 years that we have ahead of us, we may well see diseases that were terminal being treatable instead. And much of the work could have been done in India. The entry cost is not that high. The manual skills or mental skills are available in India, and they can start collaboratively. But I think India will be one of the centers for biological or biosciences in the future. Let me just say that on all the years in the varying capacities that I've tried to work in India, the most fascinating period of time that I've had is in the automotive area. The automobile business is truly an emotive and a tremendously rewarding business. It has more excitement than any other business I've been involved in. And the greatest pleasure I've had is trying to do something that everybody says could not be done. I'll just share perhaps a moment in time which I will always cherish. I decided that India could produce its own car. Everybody, my friends overseas in the automobile business, said that this couldn't be done. We had to go through a collaboration to get know-how, get technology. But we undertook to produce this car. You saw images of it in the video. It was called the Indica, and we produced it in India, totally of Indian content. As we got close to putting it in the market, my friends in India somewhat distanced themselves from me, otherwise known as distancing yourself from failure. And when the car came out, I suddenly felt that I didn't have a friend in the world, and that all the warnings that people had given me were probably going to come true. But the car did come out. It did earn a 20% market share, and we showed that we could do something. Throughout the time I've been involved in business, there hasn't been anything that has equaled the excitement, the reward, and the exhilaration that the car industry has provided and can provide. It gives, as has been said earlier, an opportunity to test new technologies, new building methods, but above all, it has helped in the transformation of the Indian economy to a mobile economy. And a great deal of what has happened in India has happened right here in Detroit. The world owes a great deal to the United States for doing what it did to get the car industry to be taken for granted the rest of the world as it has over the years.